my years in nutrition and phytonutrients. So phytonutrients from plants, vitamins, minerals, fish oils, everything you can think of. I mean, I did my PhD in vitamin A research, so vitamin A for your eye. And that's how I got started in nutrition. I didn't do nutrition research for vitamin A, I just did find out how vitamin A works in your eye. You know, vitamin A binds in a receptor in your eye, and it kind of activates the vision process. That was many years ago, 26 years ago. No, it's 29 years ago. My God, I'm old. When I got my PhD in biochemistry, and I did a postdoc research in Stockholm University with MRI and prostate cancer, and then menopause research, and then I started working for medical nutrition companies. The biggest one was Danone from France. They have, of course, chocolate milk and things like that, but they also have medical nutrition products for sick people who need extra strong nutrition. And long story, I mean, I came to work for nutrition companies that make dietary supplements. So, you know, we all know dietary supplements. And right now I'm commissioned by a company called Canaway, that's just like one of the nutrition companies that focus on hemp. And hemp and cannabinoids is a kind of a tricky subject, right? Certainly in Finland, I understand. But I just want to say that I've done many different things, but what they asked me to do is to, first of all, perform a clinical study with one of their products for sleeping purposes. I will show you that later. But also to find out in different countries, I live in Finland now for a while, but I've done the same work in Germany and in Holland, where I'm from, I'm Dutch, and in America, in Florida, where I meet in small settings like this with specialists on specific topics. Because the company believes that cannabinoids, that's an overarching term for all kinds of different components from the plant, may play a role in certain treatments. And both of you are acupuncturists, right? Good. So that means a specialty group, you know. I also do this with chiropractors. I do this with, pharmacology people. I do this with massage therapists, all kinds of different people. And I try to do it separate because I know that you as an acupuncturist, like to be in acupuncturist people, because then you can talk more concrete. Sometimes it's a mixed group, but my experience is it's always better to focus on one specific topic. I'm telling you right now, I don't know anything about acupuncture. So I hope you will teach me also something today about I know what you do, but I don't know what you potentially could do with cannabinoids or with other ingredients or with other nutrients, and how they can complement your treatment that you're doing. And maybe you can teach me something about what type of patients you have most success with, which are more difficult, just an exchange of information. What I do with that information is collect it from different healthcare professional groups, and I advise the company on can they adapt or can they provide information or better products that, in this case, acupuncturists could use. That's the whole goal. So there's no pressure or anything. It's just a matter of for us to learn, and I'm happy you're willing to share, because it helps us to provide better products. Finland is somewhat restrictive in terms of hemp, and it's loosening up, but there are other countries in Europe where it's much easier. Germany, for example, much easier to provide CBD, which is the most well-known cannabinoid. So that's the idea of today. We'll probably finish in an hour and a half, depends how much you talk. But the more you talk, the better. I'm going to take a few minutes of your time to give you a little bit of idea what hemp is and what it has been shown to do. And I want to show you a couple of study results from my research for the company. Okay, is that okay? Mm-hmm. That's good. So, most people know CBD. I think you've heard of that term too. But it's a bit unfortunate because there's so much more in the hemp plant. CBD is the most well-known one. The other one is THC. THC, that's what makes you high, right? That's what people know mostly from the marijuana plant, which is actually not marijuana. This here is not marijuana. It's the same family. You have hemp and you have marijuana. Marijuana is this big, and hemp is like a big plant that is actually mostly used in the world for other purposes than health, right? We know this leaf. This leaf has been used for many, many years. That's me in a plant in Poland, where this company that I work for right now produces their products. So what they do is they have big fields. They chop it. They have 2 crops a year because it grows very fast, the plant, and it extracts the healthcare components out of it. It's a very old plant. There are records of cannabis use, and when you see cannabis, don't immediately think about marijuana, but think about the hemp and the different plants together. Already thousands of years, this plant has been described. But also, today, we see a lot of different uses than health benefits. I mean, there are houses being built from hemp, which is called hempcrete, from like the word concrete, where building blocks are made from hemp. Clothing, of course, rope is what most people know. Food, like hemp seeds that you can make oil from. Here you see one of those building blocks. Even in cars, Mercedes, for example, has hemp plates in their car doors. That's how, hemp is getting more and more accepted. But it has a problem in terms of regulatory. And that started last century in America, the cannabis prohibition. There was a political problem in America, that's where it started, where they used alcohol, the pure alcohol, to extract certain components from cannabis. They didn't want to have the alcohol because there was an alcohol prohibition, and as a result also hemp and marijuana was banned. Now, but in the background, research still continued. So there were different universities. This is a picture of a well-known cannabis research person who kept on researching what's in the hemp plant, what can it do, how can we isolate the effective components. So yes, there was a ban, but it also, on the background, continued the research, and there were patents being given for isolation of CBD and other effects that it may have in the body. Now, this prohibition resulted, in my view, as a researcher, in problems with our health, because cannabis and hemp was always part of our food for many, many centuries. Why? Because we didn't eat it directly, but we gave it to cows, and cows gave milk, and the milk contained cannabinoids, CBD. It found its way to our body in a normal way without knowing it. We didn't know about what cannabinoids did in our body. Later, it was discovered that there is a regulatory system in our body called the ECS. I'll show you a little bit about that, endocannabinoid system, that regulates certain parts of our biochemistry. We produce certain cannabinoids in our body ourselves. Anandamide is a very well-known cannabinoid that we make ourselves. Been discovered many, many years later, but slowly the research developed and we understood more and more about this cannabinoids. Now, THC is the bad boy. I've never used THC. I don't know what it feels to be high, but unfortunately that's what most people associate with hemp and marijuana. Even though hemp is very low in THC content, it's marijuana who's much stronger in THC. But, research has been happening and people have discovered the health effects of THC. But we know more CBD, cannabidiol. It's a different molecule. It's also produced in the hemp plant. It originates from THC, so THC is produced and it's being transformed in the body into different, in the plant into different other cannabinoids, and cannabidiol is the most well known. But there are many more. Here you see the difference in chemical structure. Looks a bit the same, but THC is just a closed ring here, and CBD is open ring here. It's the only difference, but it has major differences on the biochemistry, because as you know, in the body there's a lot of molecules that bind to receptors. A receptor is a protein typically with a certain hole where a molecule fits into, and then an effect comes, right? Same with vitamin A and what I did with my PhD research. So if the molecule is a bit different, the binding is different, or the effect is different in our body. So CBD has its own effects. Interestingly, we have things that we call receptors, cannabinoid receptor 1 and cannabinoid receptor 2 in our body. And THC binds very strongly, the red triangle, to CB1 receptor in our brain. And that gives you the high effect. If you at the same time also have CBD present, it doesn't bind to the same thing, but it alters the structure a bit so that THC doesn't bind so effective anymore. In fact, a well-known way of getting rid of people who've used too much THC, marijuana thing, is to give them CBD, because it kind of reduces the effect of the THC. Anyway, this is a bit of a background what we're talking about. Today we have many fields in the world where hemp is produced. In Holland, this is a picture from America, but there are more and more fields where people are more and more relaxed on producing hemp, where it was a normal crop centuries ago, but now it's increasing. This is in America, but as I said, I was in Poland. I showed you a picture. Italy is a very big producer these days, and different countries that rediscover, so to say, the hemp plant. When it comes to legal framework, here you see the current status in Europe. Finland, unfortunately, is very small on the top, but that's because I've got this picture from the internet. And you see some countries it's completely unrestricted use of hemp for all kinds of purposes, and some countries still have some problem, and some countries are really restricted. Finland on this map is somewhat okay, but not as free as in certain other countries. That's the situation that we're dealing with. But we know every year there are more and more countries that say, okay, we don't maybe want THC, but we do want the benefits of cannabinoids for our health. Because I believe that because we didn't know what it did, cannabinoids in our body, we still took them every day through the cow milk, for example. And I think there's an argument to make that part of our long-term health concerns that we have today, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer, certain forms of cancer, obesity, metabolic crisis, could be related partly, not one-to-one, but could be related partly to the lack of these cannabinoids in our body. I mean, our body has an endocannabinoid system, has a regulatory system, needs cannabinoids to make that function. If we stop using them, as we've done for centuries, not centuries, but decades, then without knowing it, we've probably got too low amounts of these cannabinoids in our body, and there may be a relationship with certain long-term health concerns, partly at least. So, as I said, there are two cannabinoids that we produce ourselves. We call them endocannabinoids. Arachidonic glycerol is one, and anandamide. Those are made by our body, react with our endocannabinoid system, have a certain regulatory function, but then there are these exo or phytocannabinoids that we need or get from our food. There are two types of receptors, and it depends where in the body they are, what kind of effect they have, what kind of regulatory effect they have. We see CB1, CB2. CB1 is mostly in the brain, in the immune system, the vascular system, muscles. That's where these molecules bind, and that's where they have some regulatory effect. The most well-known effect for CB1 receptors is pain reduction. Modulatory effects on inflammation, on reduction of pain. That's what most people use it for today. When they use cannabinoids, when they use CBD, when they use the oil, they use that to reduce their pain effect. But there are also other kinds of effects, like in support of the immune system, the skin. So the idea is it's everywhere in our body. It's not just in one specific point. It is really depending on where it is in our body, what kind of effect it has. But the most well-known thing is relaxation, pain reduction, anti-inflammatory effects. That's what we see mostly. And more is getting known about these effects. It's through the key lock principle. That's a picture I love to use because it is a receptor, a lock, and a key, which is a cannabinoid that fits exactly in that space. And if it does so, it turns the lock and it switches on some biochemical activity. And that ECS is, of course, built in our DNA. This is a DNA molecule that's coding everything in our body. And the ECS, the endocannabinoid system, is a system that is coded in our DNA. And that tells me immediately it's important. If it's in the DNA, it must be there for some reason. Our DNA does not simply make stuff in our body that has no function. A lot of it we don't know yet, but ECS, we know in the meantime how important it is. And it is a master regulator. So I would say regulation of cholesterol synthesis, regulation of Alzheimer prevention, regulation of inflammation are all independent mechanisms, but there is an overarching, one layer above that, that is a master regulator of these sub-regulators. That's what we call the ECS. And a lot of people, because of the lack of cannabinoids, own production and external cannabinoids, suffer from certain effects, certain side effects, certain problems with lack of support from the ECS. And I see it like this. The ECS keeps us in balance, homeostasis, a very well-known term, means that if you kick out your balance in your body because of stress, your ECS brings it back. If you have pain in your system and a bigger kick out of balance, the ECS brings it back into balance. And inflammation is even worse because that can result in severe out of balance situation. So that's what it does. Keeps us in balance, and I believe strongly our body knows exactly what to do to stay healthy, to stay in balance, but we have to help it. We have to make sure we provide the right things. I mean, our body has built our eye and our vision process, but if I don't take vitamin A, I can't see, right? I need to help my body to function the best way it can do. And all these things that we get from nature are important to help our body be the best way it can be. There is a term called clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, which is a term that if you dissect it, you see endocannabinoids, so the ones from that we produce ourselves. If there is a long deficiency, a too low amount, there is a clinical effect, and that is keeping ourselves out of balance. And that syndrome, as it's been termed in 2004, as I said, may be resulting into long-term health concerns in our body. Now, pharmacy has also stepped on this bandwagon and has started synthesizing CBD, right? Synthesizing CBD, it's a molecule, so we can make it, right? And if pharmaceutical companies can do that, they can patent it, they can create it their own, they can make sure it's 100% pure, right? So they've done that. But the problem is, with synthetic CBD, it's not as effective, it's not as bioavailable as botanical CBD. One very well-known chemical CBD is a drug against epilepsy. It's not used in Europe, I know, but in America it's called Epidiolex. And that is an epilepsy medication, which is basically pure synthetic CBD. It works, but as you can see, if you take botanical CBD versus synthetic CBD, you need a lot more to get the same effect. A lot more. And this is because of an effect that's called the entourage effect. I will call that in a moment. So that's one thing. You need a lot more to have the same effect than botanical, and you have a lot more side effects. If you massively kick our biochemistry with one molecule and one molecule only for every day for a strong high dose, you get side effects. We all know that, right? It's much better to have a mixture of different cannabinoids to make you milder effect, but in the long run, a much more profound effect. So right now we know all these systems where the endocannabinoid system plays a role in and what it can do over there. I'm not going to go into all these details right now. But it is, because of emerging science, we now know also other cannabinoids. CBD is the most well-known, but there are also many more. CBG, CBN, CBC, those are all present in the hemp plant, And now we have a way to isolate those cannabinoids and use them in specific products, because they all have their own specific effects. So that's why you see an explosion of different products in the market that all focus on certain parts of the cannabinoid plant. Now, this is a little explanation of what we mean with different products in the market. You have what we call full spectrum products. Full spectrum means you take the hemp plant, you extract everything in it, and that's what you have. That means you have everything that is in the hemp plant. It has THC, it has all the cannabinoids, it has all the chlorophylls, it has all the terpenes, which are molecules that are also present in the plant. This is not legal in Finland, full spectrum products, because it contains also THC, right? You have one layer further, which is broad spectrum. Broad spectrum products are everything in the plant minus the THC. That's what you can buy in Finland. That's what you have available here on the market. So it's still a mixture of all these different cannabinoids present. And then you have isolates. Isolates that's the cheap stuff. If you go to the corner of the street and they see CBD on a neon flashlight, that means you're getting isolates. Either synthetic or isolated CBD. Has an effect, but not as effective as the full mixture, the broad spectrum product. So these are the three different products you have in the market today. We know now in the meantime what's in the hemp plant. All kinds of different cannabinoids, you see them in yellow here. They've all been studied separately, what they do, what kind of effects they have, ranging from antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer effects, and also all the terpenes that are present in the plant as well. Terpenes are highly fragrant small molecules. They're not cannabinoids, but they have very strong smell. If you smell hemp, you smell typically the terpenes from the plant. And they all have been studied, and still more and more science is emerging from that, from the different ingredients in it. So here you see what the benefit is of a mixture of ingredients rather than one single ingredient. If you look at a single CBD, it has an effect. It promotes the endocannabinoid system, so there is indeed something happening which is beneficial to it. But it is so much different if you have all the cannabinoids working together, because they all function in a little different part of the mechanism, but they help each other in creating a maximum effect on the endocannabinoid system. We call that entourage effect, working together. It's very often in phytonutrients, also outside of cannabinoids. One molecule, great, but a mixture is often very much stronger in terms of its biological effect. So this company that I do this work for right now as a consultant believes that we can help our ECS, our endocannabinoid system, by supplementing extra cannabinoids from the hemp plant. That's what they do. They create these broad spectrum products, they fill it up, and they make sure that we are getting enough of the cannabinoids in terms of phytocannabinoids to support what our ECS knows what to do, provided it gives it the cannabinoid. This is a slide I use for many different topics, but I think it illustrates well what, in terms of prevention, in terms of helping our body preventing health concerns, can do. This is age, this is life quality. And this is how I see your life, your life curve. It starts at 0 when you get born. Your life quality is 0 and then you get born, probably. And then it goes up very quickly, and you reach the maximum life quality around 25 or 30, something like that. And this is the amount of years that you have in good health. Later on, you slowly start developing some problems, not too serious, it goes down a bit, and then at the end of your life, it goes quickly down. That's typical life curve of a person. And persons go to a doctor when they're sick. So there. You don't go to a doctor there in the beginning. Why would you? You have no problems. Maybe a little bit of them. You go to a doctor when it gets really serious. And the doctor gives you drugs, and the drugs do something, so it gives you a little bit of extension of your life curve. That's a typical process of today's pharmaceutical intervention, I would say. I believe that we need to start at that point in our life. We need to, at that moment, be conscious about what we need to do to help our body to do the best thing it can. And if you do that, I believe the overall effect on your life curve is so much bigger. You have an increased life quality, and you have an increased life quantity, and therefore a much stronger, more developed, more better effect for your whole life. This is the power of prevention. This is the power of taking care of your health at the beginning of your life rather than waiting until you're sick. Okay, good. We can skip that. Cannabinoids and other cannabinoids. Okay. So, in conclusion, it was very fast, I know, but I would like to hear a little bit from you more about the effects of the hemp plant. I think the key message is here: hemp is part of our life. It's been for centuries. We've forgotten about it for 50, 60, 70 years because of stupid political decisions. It's the reality. We have taken it out of our body unknowingly because we didn't know it was important. Finally, we continued with the research, found out how important it can and is for our regulatory mechanisms in our body, and we've reintroduced it. And now we've seen the benefits popping up left and right because we discover more and more of what it can do. I want to, very fresh, you're the first people who see it because it was released only 2 days ago. The company also asked me to do a study on one of the topics where cannabinoids can help, which is sleep. And I did that in Europe. I want to show you a couple of results. We believe sleep is important. We have a product that we studied called Sleep 3. And this is a product that is a mixture of hemp extract with CBD and another form of cannabinoid, CBN, which is a sleep-inducing cannabinoid, and some other herbal extracts, poppy seed, walnut oil, chamomile, lavender, things that have been typically been used to promote sleep quality. The product focuses on 3 different aspects. A gentle, so it doesn't kick you out, but makes you fall asleep in a gentle way. You lay in bed, you get easier into sleep. It's calm, it relaxes your body, anti-inflammatory, reduces your pain so that you don't wake up all the time during the night. And it makes sure that you have a fresh start of the day, that you're not groggy. That's important. If you have a bad night's sleep, you function a lot worse during the day, right? We all know that. So that is the key aspects that we wanted to have in this product. And they asked me, can you do a clinical study with that? So I did. We studied it for the last 3 months. You see it's still March 2026, so it's very fresh results. We used a very well-known index, which is called the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. That is a technique that is a questionnaire where people are being questioned about certain aspects of their sleep quality, and then it puts into a number, and you can see how well people have been sleeping. So 1988, it's been published, and this is what it investigates. It investigates subjective sleep quality, so what do people think, how well they sleep, subjective. Sleep latency, which means how long does it take to fall asleep. Duration, how many hours you sleep. Habitual sleep efficiency means if you spend 10 hours in bed but you only sleep 5 hours of them, you have 50% sleep efficiency, right? Laying in bed doesn't mean you sleep. Use of medication, do you use something else or can you reduce your medication for sleeping? Sleep disturbances means do you have to get out of bed at night to go peeing all the time, or you have to hot or to cold, or is your legs cramp or things like that? And daytime dysfunction. So are you efficient during the day because you had a better sleep thing? Okay, we did this in these countries. Finland, we had a number of participants, and some other countries, as you can see. And we had 50.7 years of age. That was the average age group. And many more women participated than men. Typically, women are more interested in doing that. And sleep worse also, we've seen. So, interestingly, I found that interesting. So, here you see what we've been able to do with this product. The PSQI, so the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, showed a 36% improvement. So people slept on the overall scale, so that's a big number, but it's an overall scale. They went from 12 on the PSQ, you see it on the left, to 8. Now what does that mean? It means 8 is a better sleep quality, but it's still not the best, because everything above 5 is considered to be a poor sleeper. But what can you expect in a month? I mean, a month is really short time. It's a very short time for studying. But the results in that month were already 36% higher, statistically significant. P-value is smaller than 0.001. So this is a very impressive result. Now we have to be fair, these are people who didn't sleep at the beginning very well, right? If you have good sleepers, the effect will be smaller. But these are all people who slept bad. That's why they participated in the study. And also interestingly, men and women are a little bit different response. Men tend to be less responsive to the effects than women. Women always do it better in these studies. And for example, the sleep quality, it also improved very effectively, but for women and not for men. So you asked the men and you said, do you feel you sleep better? They say no, in this study, right? Women were much better, but overall the group had a very significant result. They had women much shorter time to fall asleep, 1.8 hours in general to fall asleep in the average, reduced to 1.4, which seems small, but it is significant effect. The men didn't have to need that much time to sleep, but they didn't change it either. 20 minutes or so on average in this group. So it was interesting. And the same thing for sleep duration. Women started sleeping longer, which benefits their sleep effect. Men, not so much. Efficiency, so how much time in bed versus how much really asleep. A great effect. 20% better efficiency, going from almost 70% efficiency to 85%, meaning that they have much more effective time in the bed. Men, yes, an effect, but a little bit slower. Women, much stronger. Sleep disturbances, meaning have to go pee in the night, being too hot, being too cold, having cramps. Women effective, men not so much. And daytime function. Men were sharp during the day before, stayed sharp, at least they said that. And women I have seen a much better effect. So, in conclusions, we have in this study shown that this particular product, Sleep 3, was very well liked. People reported very great stories about it. Very minimal side effects. So it's not pharmaceutical. It's really a natural product that didn't have a lot of side effects. There were 3 people who reported side effects. One said, I got to go pee a lot more during the night. And one said, if I start taking it, I'm just laying awake the whole night. So they quit. That was the 2 people who had side effects. Everybody else had a very good response of this. So sleep quality has been significantly improved after only 1 month, which I think is a great result. And men reported a slightly less favorable effect for some reasons. Maybe men don't want to admit that they sleep worse. What do you think about that? I see you smiling. So this is I understand it was a fast waterfall, but I'm really enthusiastic about what I see, what the hemp plant can do. I know, in very different directions because of the master regulator effect. And I did, as I said, this little talk also in Florida just a few weeks ago with acupuncturists. And some used it in their practice, but most not. They see no need for it. So I want to have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. First of all, have you ever considered using something like phytotherapy, or in this case hemp, in your patients? Do you see a need for it? Do you see a benefit for it in improving your outcome that you're trying to achieve? Maybe that's an open question, but maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, I suppose it could be a supportive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really thought about it, that I would provide it for my patients myself. Perhaps I could recommend it, and I do it already.
You do it already now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I recommend, even though it's not possible to get it from Finland, but because I have heard about the CBD oil, and I have been using it myself, and I have some clients who used also for Lyme's disease, when they had really difficult things, and that was the only thing that helped.
That is an interesting point, because one of the founders of this company, he's a doctor in physiotherapy, and he also had Lyme's disease many years ago, 25 years ago, and it also for him specifically, when he started using the CBD mixtures, he had a great improvement in the Lyme's disease effect.
Especially for the pains.
Yeah, for the pains,
And,
exactly.
yeah.
What kind of patients are you typically treating? What's the typical patients that you're dealing with?
Well, it's all kinds of people, but I think mostly people at this moment are coming because they have anxiety and they have sleeping difficulties. And then there are a lot of people who have some kind of a pain in their body, but they don't really know where it comes from. Yeah. So it's really like,
yeah. Okay, so it's a big difference.
In
but those
different
are the
ages.
typical-
I mean, it's young to older people.
How did you get started in acupuncture?
I started like 14 years ago, and I am a Qigong teacher too, so it kind of put me into Chinese medicine. And I have been really active in the beginning in the area of Chinese medicine, so I was working also on the European field
And that
with
means,
DTCMA.
that means then also products from herbal medicine and things like that.
Some in Finland we don't do so much the herbal medicine because it has been quite difficult to get the herbs from China here. So at one point I started to use essential oils. So I'm very into essential oils, so that's why I know also about the feta things and how the yeah.
Okay. And is it always used alongside acupuncture today, or do you also do it separately completely?
Not today. I'm not using essential oils so much anymore.
Yeah.
Separately.
But separately, I mean, does everybody get acupuncture and sometimes products with it, or is it always, or is it sometimes only the products and not acupuncture?
It's always acupuncture.
Okay, that's the basis, basically.
Yeah,
that's
and I also do energy medicine, so it depends on what the person needs. And sometimes they need something so they can manage also at home, and not to come too often perhaps for acupuncture or whatever. So something that I want to ask, because I think this is quite kind of an important thing also, is how have this been used on ADHD or ADD? Because this is starting to be like a huge problem. And I'm a little bit against this to give children medicines. So
Ritalin, for
yeah.
example.
So this could like be some kind of a softer way to calm the nervous system down and get some kind of a balance. I don't know, but what do you think?
Well, I completely agree. I mean, as I said, the most initial results were seen in epilepsy, but that's also a calming effect happening there, partly. That's one of the explanations. But ADHD, I've seen many children being, and even adults with ADHD, because, being, as you say, calm down, not hyperactive anymore. And I agree with you completely. I mean, ADHD, of course, in America was 10 years already before, and doctors didn't even know, this busy child, just give him Ritalin, it probably will be a good thing, right? Not really thinking about or a real diagnosis being made. And that's, of course, a very bad way to look at it. So I see very good results in terms of ADHD and slowing down of their hyperactivity. So that's interesting. I mean, is ADD, in America they say ADD, but attention deficit disorder, and here ADHD, right? Attention deficit hyperactivity.
It's both. It's both.
Yeah.
Because they are like different how you behave. So, but here in Finland we have a lot of grown-ups now that is getting the diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden it's like rising, and you see it's. I think also perhaps all over the world, but especially in Finland.
Why do you have these?
I really don't know.
I don't see a lot of hyperactive, except for Marco. But
it's really strange. There is a reason probably why people feel that they have this, but
yeah. Can I ask you about your type of patients that you're dealing with typically?
Any kind of
Many kinds. Pain also, and that what she
Pain.
says.
Low back pain.
Low back pain.
For example, IBS.
IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what is typically now? Would you say that they use acupuncture for many more symptoms than maybe 20 years ago, or has it always been similar to all kinds of health concerns? Is there a wider application field now today?
I don't see a difference.
No. So when you started, how long did you do this already?
Started 2009.
9. So okay, so 15. Yeah, something like that. So it was kind of a similar type of patients. Yeah. Is it better accepted now today in Finland? Are more patients coming to acupuncturists? Or is it paid for by the insurance, by Kela? Or
No.
No. So it's privately paid for.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that a hurdle? Is that limiting people to come to you?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big problem.
A big problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. But still, I think that people know more about acupuncture nowadays, and it's easier to come to an acupuncturist, I think, than it was before. They have heard about it somewhere, and someone has taken acupuncture. It's not that strange to go, but still, because it's a cost thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so that is I can see that as a hurdle. I mean, in Finland particularly, because everything else is free, right? Maybe
yeah.
I'm exaggerating now, but I mean that's my feeling.
Mm.
So then, if you have to pay for something, it's more as a hurdle to actually go to a person like that. Do you feel that there is a bigger acceptance of acupuncture, that people? I mean, there are always people who think it's nonsense, right?
Mm.
And there are a growing group of people that think it's more accepted and has a certain biological effect. Do you see that group growing?
Yeah, I think so. It's more accepted, and sometimes I hear also that their medical doctor has said that acupuncture could help for this.
Okay.
And that's like really, really new. It's not all the medical doctors, but there are some really, really like saying that you could go for acupuncture.
Yeah.
So I think that's really positive.
That's opening doors
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. How many acupuncturists are there, you think, in Finland? Hundreds or thousands?
I don't know. I used to know before when I was very active, but I don't know nowadays. But it could be like hundreds, perhaps.
Hundreds, I suppose.
Yeah, not thousands. I think there have been some people who have the education, but then in Finland it's really difficult to work and to live on just to be an acupuncturist. So you have probably to do something else first by the side, and then do the acupuncture like half time or whatever. So it's not that easy to be an entrepreneur.
No.
In any area, I think, like you have and whatever. So yeah. So I think a lot of people just like left it.
Left it.
Yeah, they didn't do anything else. They went to the education, and they thought that they learned something for themselves, but then they don't start to do the acupuncture afterwards.
Where do you get the education?
Well, there are some different educations. There is also one in Helsinki here, the Kiinalainen lääketieteen akatemia, that I was with to start. Yeah, I was starting it with Mikael and Taina a couple of years ago, many years ago, and they still have it. So it's the one that's really functioning.
Yeah.
Then I think there is some in Tampere also, and in Pohjanmaa.
Tero Ikeri is teaching in
Pohjanmaa. Yeah.
Near Kokkola.
Okay.
So there aren't so many. I think perhaps in Lapland there is something too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, but it's very good to also to get abroad a little bit to get something into Finland also, because it has kind of stopped being very open here. So it's a possibility. I got my education from Sweden, so.
Now, you said it's difficult for me to get cannabinoid products, but You can buy it, right? I mean, this
Yeah,
company
I
sells
buy it through internet.
Yeah, okay, but so it comes from abroad then maybe, but you
Yeah,
can,
from Holland.
from Holland. So that means that you can buy it, but maybe you cannot resell it then in Finland. Is
No,
that the problem?
I can't do that.
Okay, but you kind of do it secretly, or I mean.
No, I don't do that. I don't
no,
sell
no,
it.
but okay, but.
I use it myself, but I don't sell it. But I can recommend it,
Aha, okay.
and that's another thing.
Right. So that means as a practitioner, you can recommend it, but you don't actually sell it, but the person then goes itself on the same internet
Yes.
and buys it.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a business for me. It's just something that I want to tell about.
Yeah.
That this could help you.
Yeah. This company does that too. I mean, they are all sold through internet for personal use, but the people who recommend it still get some benefit from it. You know, they get some kickback, so to say,
Okay.
or some provision
Mm.
from their recommendation. So what we see in certain countries, healthcare professionals do that quite extensively when they advise their people to do it, and they still get a benefit from it. Some find that not the right thing to do, right, as you maybe think yourself, but it is happening like that, right? And this company does that as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you brought up ADHD, because it means that you have seen patients with ADHD.
Yeah, absolutely. And in all different ages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
It's. I think it's somehow you get the patients that. I have noticed that sometimes it just comes like a group of people that has the same thing. It's really strange. But I worked as a teacher 8-9 years in schools, so with children from 6 to 12-year-old, and then I saw a lot of this. So I studied a lot about ADHD and ADD and autism and whatever.
Autism,
so yeah.
That's another area where I personally know people who have autistic children that have benefits from using cannabinoids in hemp.
Yeah.
So these spectra get bigger and bigger because more and more people are introduced with these products. And that's, you can't stop it, because it's going to be more and more people experience the benefits from it. And that is a good situation, I would say,
Yeah.
in terms of use. Because, I mean, some people react very, very effectively to it, and that's a great thing. But it's good to hear that you at least talk about it with people and with patients that you have.
Yeah.
And use it.
You see when you can talk about it. You can't talk about it to everybody.
No?
No.
How does it?
But some kind of, you can be like, no, I don't want to hear about that.
About hemp or anything else than acupuncture?
No, with the cannabis, the CBD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're scared
it's
of
still like some scarcity,
Yeah.
and they are just putting into,
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, when I explained to my friends in Holland what I was doing now in terms of research, they all think you're becoming a marijuana dealer, but that's not. Yeah, well, that's
but
true,
it's something we need to know. It's
exactly. It's very different, but unfortunately, it gets more and more accepted, but it's still not there yet. And there are still countries in the world where it's completely banned. Not in Europe so much, but
No.
I think so. So this is another question that people like to talk about. If you know something about hemp-derived products, why would you or would you not talk about it? You say some people don't want to have anything to do with it, so they indicate, I don't want to hear about it. Or is there anything from your side also that you're missing? Scientific backup, quality control, price, what could all be those reasons?
Not really, because I have already studied so much about this. So for me, I don't see like a barrier. No.
How about
Not
you?
from my
Do you
side.
talk
it's
about
more-
it, patients? About cannabinoids?
This is new for me.
This could be new for you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you should. You should. What I'm going to do after this, I'm going to provide you. I'm going to ask Christina to provide you with some information and the study results and stuff, so that there is at least some basis for it. It's of course it's more limited than pharmaceuticals, obviously, right? Because it's always difficult for natural products to have a same level of scientific proof, simply because there's not so much investment in it as pharmaceutical companies would do. But there is emerging science which is very interesting. So, cost and reimbursement, you talked about it. There's no reimbursement for acupuncture, and certainly also not for CBD. That's actually in different countries different. In Germany, there are areas where you can actually get cannabinoid products reimbursed by insurance companies, provided you meet certain criteria, obviously. But I did in my one of my previous jobs, I did also health economics, and health economics is simply following patients and then split them in two groups, get the product, don't get the product, and see how they evolve and see what kind of costs they make. And if there's a clear difference that if you don't give the product, you're going to get a lot more costs later in the journey, in the patient journey. You're going to have more costs for insurance companies. And if that's clear and proven and fixed, then it's much better to pay for the product as an insurance company than not, because it's going to save them a lot of money. And that's, of course, what it's all about with them. It's money saving. So I find that intriguing, Regulatory hurdles, you say, so I understand now, you can buy it, provided you use it yourself. And you cannot sell it to someone else. That is a state. That's all your experience as well? Yeah, right. So in Germany, I can work a lot in Germany, and I can tell you there are practitioners that do want to earn something from it. They typically do it as I said, so they work with companies that give them a commission on their recommendations, or they have the secretary or somebody selling the products. It's kind of a bit shady maybe, but it does work that way in certain markets. Germany is much more accepting
it has always been with everything. I think,
with everything.
I think I didn't quite understand the question, because the real answer is that I could actually sell some products that are made for ravinnoksi, like food.
Nutrition.
Nutrition, yes, but I should have this nutrition
degree.
Elintarvikeviranomaisten hyväksymä place, like the place that is
accepted
of the official accepted to sell products like that.
From the state.
Yeah. So, but I could sell. It's not like it's not big deal to get that kind of license to sell, but I could,
And so it's
because these are for like eating. This is food.
Yeah, so basically, a license to open up a food shop. It sounds simple, or a health store, or a vitamin store.
Yeah.
I mean, I see on the street here. Of course, you can buy vitamins in certain shops.
Yes.
I'm thinking about names of shops like that, but
there's many.
Yeah.
But in my clinic, I had these products on the desk, and I told them about them, and then we made I made the order from them, and they got it in their home. I also could do so that I sometimes borrowed a bottle if I saw that the person needed right away, and then when the delivery came, she brought it back to me.
Okay.
So
what kind of patients do you see?
all kinds of. Mainly, I think it's because of my own background. I'm homeopath myself. I've been practicing 18 years, almost 20 years now, and mainly I have seen lots of women with hormonal disturbances. I think that's the main group, but it's because of my own background. I have had this experience myself years ago, and also men with back pain. It's very, very common thing, and also all kinds of pains. Lots of ADHD, a lot of that, especially with kids, but also adults, like you said. And then skin problems, lots of skin problems. That's very common. Also, all kind of intestine problems, and all kinds of anxiety. It's very, very common, and sleeping problems as well, and stress. Stress is like one big thing that I think has to be there in the beginning, and after that it will develop more or less physical problems as well, because of it's affecting all kind of like sleeping and everything. So all kinds of. I have recommended people to use these kind of products since 2018.
Okay.
And my experience was, first I ordered one bottle to my dog, who was dying. To my dog, yes. And that was because of record, because we can't say these kind of things, but he had this very serious situation that the vet said that there's nothing to do, just give euthanasia. And I said no, because I wanted my kids to say goodbye to him, and also when I heard the diagnosis, I knew that there is something that I can do with homeopathy. But the dog was in so bad shape. He was like really in bad how to say oxygen, as we say in Finland, huonossa hapessa.
Yeah.
So I didn't get much response from his system by using homeopathy. He didn't have strength to do anything. So I thought that it was over, but then I had this I believe it was from Facebook or somewhere, this one commercial that my friend said, hey, I have found this kind of subject and these are great. And I remember that, yes, I think 1 year before, one of my clients called me and asked whether do I know where to get this kind of CBD or some cannabinoid oils, because her mother had the same situation as my dog was having, and she had read that somewhere that these cannabinoids could help. So I remembered that, and I thought that I don't have anything to lose. If I can help this dog to live a couple of days or weeks like in better condition, I will give him. I rather give this. Also he was in so bad shape that I had to give some medicines also because of the pains and stuff. And I didn't have much expectations really, because the vet said that it's only like a couple of weeks that he will live. And you know, I saw the effect immediately. After first dose I put in his food, and I saw what happened. And well, he got better and lived almost 3 years after that with homeopathy and with cannabinoids. I believe the both was needed. And he died with a different thing that he was really, really old, like almost 13, and he was more than 50 kilos. So it was, he lived long. Yeah, okay, but then I saw what happened to him, and I thought maybe I could try that too. And I also felt the effect myself. I had burnout just maybe 2 years ago. And I thought that I have already recovered, but I didn't know anything. Because when I started to take the cannabinoid oil, it was, I started to sleep for first 9 days. I was so like physically tired that I thought when I went to my clinic, I thought, should I put like sticks in my eyes because my head was okay, but physically very, very tired. But I think it made some kind of reset in my body. And then after that, it was like then day I was like somebody had put this power on again, and I was like, yeah. And now after using it for many years, now this new product, this sleep, came, and I've been thinking for all of my life that I sleep very well. I don't have any sleeping problems, but I didn't know, because after starting taking this sleep tree, my sleeping is different, totally different. I feel different in the morning, and if I don't take it, it's a different feeling. So it's there's a difference. I don't know, is it CBN or what is the kind of yes. So it's there is really difference.
Yeah.
But still, even I take CBD, this pure gold cannabinoid oil every day. So it's the endocannabinoid system. I believe it's very sensitive for all kinds of like stress and disturbances what we can get during our everyday life. And some days you need more oil, and some days less. And I believe it makes you somehow more conscious about your body needs. And then when I learned that this endocannabinoid system it's information system that your cells are like sending messages. So it's like consciousness from your cells. So, and that's what I felt when I started to use that. Yeah, sorry. This is my favorite subject. I want to talk about this. Yeah.
No, I think personal stories are very, very inspiring to see how people got to it, and it's great to hear that. Do you have something that you can share about your experience?
Not so much, but I have got my stress levels down a lot.
Stress level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and also the sleep. Just to
Yeah.
and then go to sleep and don't play with mobile after that. I get sleep very well, and also with vape. It's also good.
Vape.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have that kind of
Yeah. Okay.
There is sleep one. It's very good also.
It's very interesting to hear that all of you say the same things, like in terms of anxiety, pain, focus, and you brought up ADHD. I think that proves something, that people, first of all, are suffering from that more and more, and second, seek the same type of help for it. And since cannabinoids have shown benefits for, in principle, all these things, it's and you are already well educated in it. That's what you said, or you know about it at least. And for you, it's new, but it is an emerging thing. I have something completely different. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I use insulin every day, and I had my benefits for a couple of years now have been clearly a better insulin sensitivity. So improved lower sugar values because of better insulin function, which I don't hear a lot, but it could be also this ECS, this regulatory system that helps with that regulatory process as well. I don't have evidence for it, but I've just seen it. Makes a big difference for me as well. So that's good. I don't have pain, I don't have stress or focus or anything like problems like that, but insulin helps.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So.
And also that the side effects, they are like, there are no side effects when you compare to the people that are taking sleeping pills and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, all kind of anxiety medicines that people are taking nowadays. Whatever you have in your body, you get some kind of an anxiety drug. So it's really crazy in Finland,
Yeah.
and all the kind of side effects that they get from that. So yeah.
There is a market
That's
for
probably
it.
not.
Absolutely.
I think it's
Absolutely.
a market.
So,
Yeah. But it's probably too good, so we're never gonna get it. Well.
That sounds like conspiracy thinking. It's probably too good, so we're never going to get it. But,
Yeah.
no. So what I'd like to conclude with, I want to thank you very much for your ideas, to listen to me and to everybody else, but also, it opens up thought processes. I'm collecting these ideas also from the other meetings I have, and put it into a document specifically for acupuncturists, where I suggest areas where cannabinoids could help based on science and based on experiences that you have shared and other people have shared. And I will ask Christina to forward that document to you. Right now it's in English, but I'm going to make it available in Finnish as well, to just provide information, right? And it's interesting that I have two people, one who's new to them and one who's used them many times before already. So that's a great combination. So thank you. Anything else that you want to discuss?
Thank you, Peter. It was
Okay.
really, really interesting.
Good. Thank you very much. It's both ways learning for me and you. So it's really, the company is trying to make it a professional offering. Yes, the company has a lot of customers without any medical intervention, but they believe that there's a lot of cases where it can be helped alongside as an adjunct therapy to current things that are using, and that's what I want to professionalize. But we realize that people like yourself need documentation. They need to have study results. They need to have recommendations, and that's what we're making. And that's every small step helps us to get to that way. So.
Many times it is so that you first yourself use. Because I had the cancer and then I had the burnout and so on. After cancer I found energy healing, Reiki. And after the burnout I found acupuncture.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So because of own problems you start finding that, and then also professionalizing and offer it to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you have your own experience, it helps.
Yeah, that's great.
And I would like to try what help I can get from your product. So
well, Christina can help you with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's great to hear that you have own problems and then find some kind of intervention therapy, and then start professionalizing yourself and to offer it to other people. It's the way to do it. So, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.